Our sixth speaker is number 132, doing a selection from Confessions of a Nightingale.
Good evening. Welcome to these True Confessions. I hope you know what you're in for. I'm gonna let it all hang out. No, I just flew in from Hollywood and I stayed there too long. 4 hours. Someone once told me, is this true, that if you stand on a corner of that coast for long enough, sooner or later, a seagull will crap a pot of gold on your head? Well, I always wanted to use that line in a play, but judging from your reaction, it's just as well I didn't. Author of The Glass Menagerie, A Streetcar Named Desire, and Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, Tennessee Williams is arguably the greatest modern American playwright. It has been said that the characters he created for the theater greatly resembled the characters in his own life, and the stories he told to the theater greatly resemble the stories he told in person. Through intense personal interviews, Charlotte Chandler has created a character that we can only call Tennessee. Confessions of a Nightingale by Charlotte Chandler and Ray Strickland. Well, what shall we talk about? Nowadays, I'm usually bombarded with questions about sex and death. Though in my case, perhaps they're similar. No, I've never understood why everybody was always so titillated by sex. Thick. Especially homosexuality. So, why don't we get that little demon out of the way right now? Am I homosexual? I don't know how that little rumor got started. But as I told David Frost on national television, I cover the waterfront. And as Blanche says in Streetcar, straight. What is straight? A line can be straight or a street, but the human heart? However, I do feel those more sensitive in art may well be more sensitive in their sexual pursuits, but I don't know. You know, I've read accounts that say Blanche is a drag queen. That George and Martha from Alvy's Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf are a pair of homosexuals. Now, these charges are ridiculous. If I'm writing a female character, then damn it, I'm writing a female character, not a drag queen. If I wanted to write a drag queen, I'd write a drag queen. Any writer with the talent of creating characters is fully capable of pulling from both his male and his female components. I know. And I'm not faking either. When they say, okay, how come you write about frustrated women? Well, I don't. Frustrated is almost exactly what the women I write about are not. What's frustrating about Amanda Wingfield from The Glass Menagerie, or Laura Wingfield from The Glass Menagerie? My grandmother was named Rose, and my sister was named for her. And Miss Rose was one of those people who craved attention and appreciation and needed love. And at just that moment that she needed me the most, I was off groping for my own way and looking for my own place. Miss Rose was the most important person in my life. I think the greatest pleasure in life is making people happy, and it is not easy to make people happy, not even yourself, especially not yourself. But I think that the greatest pleasure in my life was when I was able to rescue my sister, Miss Rose, from the asylum where they destroyed her memory with a lobotomy. They claim she attacked some woman. And she became the pioneer of the lobotomy. She had the first or second. I don't remember which. Now, my sister never did a deliberately unkind thing to anyone in her life, and she became the pioneer of the lobotomy. I remember one summer, there was this boy who would call on her quite frequently. She was deeply in love with him. She nearly expired every time the phone rang. And then one day, he just stopped calling. Now, how could anyone be so cruel? Deliberate cruelty is the only unforgivable thing. Blanche Streetcar. I think the only times in my life that I truly regret are those times when I was cruel, and I will never forgive myself for them. Once around the same vicinity as the gentleman caller, our parents went out of town and I had a little party, and Miss Rose was very uncomfortable because there was alcohol and our father was an alcoholic, and she was huddled in the corner like a frightened little bird. And when our parents came home, she tattled on me. And I was told I couldn't see those friends anymore. Well, they were the only friends I had. So I went up to my room, and as I passed her on the staircase, I looked at her, and I loved her. But for just one moment, I forgot all about that. I never want to see your ugly face again. I said to her, and only death can release me from my guilt. After that, things got progressively worse for Miss Rose, the asylum, the lobotomy, etc., etc. Recently, I was invited to Buckingham Palace to have tea with the Queen of England, and I asked Miss Rose if she'd care to join me and have tea with the Queen of England, and she looked at me and she said, "I am the Queen of England." Well, I guess if you're gonna live in a dream world, you might as well be queen of it. My family. My mother could have been described as a Prussian general. An inefficient Prussian general. And my father, oh, Dad is such an unhappy man. You know, I think unhappiness can be learned like a bad habit. And if my father taught me anything, it was how to be unhappy. Now, I know all of you have your own reasons for being unhappy, your own personal problems. That's fine. I was happy. Till I was 8. But I do have a good disposition. Don't you think I have a good disposition? And I don't drink anymore, except a little whiskey in my tea, a little bourbon in my Coke and white wine, but that doesn't count. Oh, I have to tell you this. It's so silly. Recently, I was in the south of France with my good friend Sylvia. She's very well acquainted socially, and we're on the beach, and this girl comes out of the water. She's very skinny, right? And she's got this little bitty bikini on. And Sylvia turns to me and she says, "Now that's anorexia nervosa." And I said, "Oh, Sylvia, you know everybody." Laughter has become my substitution for lamentation. And I would laugh as loudly as I would lament if I could find a useful substitution for weeping. Anything of mine that has survived has some worth, some merit. If anything survives in the theater, and despite all my torment and ghosts of yesterday, I have remained true to one thing, and that is my love for the theater. And if I could choose my place to die, it would be in a Broadway theater on opening night, listening to the wild ovation at the end of my newest play. Now that would be an unusual ending for a Tennessee Williams play, wouldn't it? A happy one. But only fiction can offer happy endings, right? And that, ladies and gentlemen, that is when the nightingale truly sings.